The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson is a brutally honest, counterintuitive guide to living a meaningful life by choosing what truly deserves your attention, energy, and emotional investment. Instead of promoting constant positivity, the book argues that life's struggles, limitations, and discomforts are inevitable, and that real growth comes from accepting them rather than avoiding them. At its core, the book challenges the modern obsession with feeling good all the time and suggests that true fulfillment comes from caring about fewer things but caring deeply about the right things. The book begins by dismantling the cultural illusion that happiness is achieved by accumulating success, pleasure, and validation. Manson argues that this mindset creates a toxic cycle where people constantly chase better experiences, believing that they are not good enough as they are. This leads to anxiety, dissatisfaction, and a perpetual feeling of lacking something. Instead, he introduces the idea that life is inherently filled with problems, and happiness is not about eliminating them, but about choosing better problems. In other words, the quality of your life depends on the quality of problems you are willing to face and solve. Manson emphasizes that giving a fuck, caring deeply, is not a bad thing, it's essential. However, the mistake people make is giving too many fucks about trivial, superficial, or uncontrollable things. Social media, societal expectations, and comparison culture push people to care about status, approval, and image, which ultimately leads to stress and emptiness. The key, according to Manson, is to be selective, to develop the ability to ignore what doesn't truly matter so you can focus on what does. One of the most powerful ideas in the book is the concept of embracing negative experiences. Manson argues that pain, failure, and uncertainty are not obstacles to happiness but essential components of it. He challenges the reader to stop avoiding discomfort and instead lean into it. Growth happens when you step outside your comfort zone and confront difficult truths about yourself and the world. By accepting that life will always involve struggle, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation of constant happiness and instead find peace in resilience and purpose. The book also explores the idea of responsibility. Manson makes a clear distinction between fault and responsibility. Something may not be your fault, but it is still your responsibility to deal with it. This perspective empowers individuals to take control of their lives instead of blaming circumstances or other people. By owning your problems and your reactions, you gain the ability to shape your future. This mindset shift is crucial because it moves you from a victim mentality to a proactive one. Another key theme is the importance of values. Manson argues that many people base their self-worth on external validation, money, fame, popularity, which are unstable and ultimately unsatisfying. Instead, he encourages choosing values that are internal, controllable, and constructive, such as honesty, growth, resilience, and curiosity. When your values are aligned with personal development rather than external approval, you become more grounded and less affected by the opinions of others. The concept of "you are not special" is another provocative yet liberating idea presented in the book. Manson argues that believing you are uniquely deserving of success or happiness without effort leads to entitlement and disappointment. Accepting your ordinariness allows you to focus on real growth rather than maintaining a false sense of superiority. It removes the pressure to be exceptional all the time and replaces it with the freedom to improve gradually. Manson also dives into the nature of failure and rejection. He explains that avoiding failure is actually more damaging than experiencing it. Failure provides feedback, builds resilience, and helps clarify what truly matters to you. People who succeed are not those who avoid failure, but those who learn from it and keep going. Similarly, rejection is not something to fear, but a natural part of pursuing meaningful goals and relationships. The book highlights the importance of setting boundaries, both with others and with yourself. By saying no to things that don't align with your values, you create space for what truly matters. This requires courage because it often means disappointing others or going against societal norms. However, without boundaries, you end up spreading yourself too thin and losing focus on your priorities. Manson introduces the idea of the feedback loop from hell, where people become anxious about being anxious or frustrated about being frustrated. This creates a cycle of negative emotions that feed on themselves. The solution is to break the loop by accepting negative emotions instead of resisting them. When you stop judging your feelings and allow them to exist, they lose their power over you. Another important concept is uncertainty. Manson argues that the desire for certainty leads to rigidity and fear of change. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control everything only creates stress. Instead, embracing uncertainty allows you to adapt, learn, and grow. It encourages a mindset of exploration rather than control. The book also discusses the inevitability of death and how it gives life meaning. By acknowledging that life is finite, you become more intentional about how you spend your time and energy. It forces you to prioritize what truly matters and let go of trivial concerns. This perspective shifts your focus from short-term gratification to long-term fulfillment. Throughout the book, Manson uses a straightforward, sometimes blunt tone to challenge conventional self-help advice. He criticizes the idea that simply thinking positively will solve problems, arguing that it often leads to denial and avoidance. Instead, he advocates for radical honesty with yourself and others as the foundation for growth. The narrative also touches on relationships, emphasizing that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, honesty, and boundaries. Trying to please everyone or avoid conflict leads to shallow connections. True intimacy requires vulnerability and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Manson's philosophy ultimately revolves around the idea of intentional living. Instead of drifting through life reacting to external pressures, you should consciously choose your values, your struggles, and your priorities. This requires self-awareness and discipline, but it leads to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. In essence, not giving a fuck does not mean being indifferent or apathetic. It means being selective about what you care about. It's about focusing your energy on things that align with your values and letting go of everything else. It's about accepting that life is imperfect and that you are imperfect, and finding peace in that reality. The book concludes by reinforcing the idea that life is a series of choices about what to care about. You cannot avoid pain, failure, or uncertainty, but you can choose how you respond to them. By embracing responsibility, accepting limitations, and focusing on meaningful values, you can create a life that is not necessarily easier, but more worthwhile. Overall, the message is simple yet profound. Stop trying to be happy all the time. Stop chasing unrealistic ideals and start focusing on what truly matters. When you do that, you naturally experience a deeper, more authentic form of happiness, one that is rooted in purpose, resilience, and self-awareness rather than external validation.